Hello?
Hey there. Hey, is this Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, Nathan. Hey, I was just trying to figure out if there was any way that I could get a refund for those shitty Amazon ebooks I ordered on HDR photography editing, or if I could possibly get a refund or credit for the time I wasted watching your tutorials. Hello? Hello? Nathan, are you there? Hello? Huh, I think he hung up on me. All right, so if you're like me and you've tried to figure out how to edit your HDR photography and you've tried guide after guide, tutorial after tutorial, only to come up short with the results and quality, this video is for you. Whether you're a new agency or an existing agency, there will be something you will learn in this video. And a real quick story, when I first started my business 5 years ago, my photos completely sucked. I tried to edit them all myself. I tried multiple guides, I tried shooting Flambient, I tried to do it all, and I never really felt that I was able to get it down pat. My focus has always been on video. I've always wanted to do the video editing side, and the photos fell short. It was only until a friend of mine recommended that I outsource my files to an overseas editor, did my files and my photos take an immediate change for the better. Now, there's pros and cons to outsourcing to overseas editors, and there's also pros and cons to letting AI edit your photos. But in this video, we're talking about Auto HDR, a new platform that I've been using for the past 3 months exclusively to edit my real estate photos that I deliver to my clients. I'll show you how to use it. We're talking about the price, and then we'll talk about the pros of using it and the cons of using it in comparison to an overseas editor. All right, let's jump on to the computer. We'll talk about the website first. All right, so the website's name is Auto HDR. And when you first look at the website itself, it is pretty simplistic. You can see that right in the dead center is the area where you will upload your files. Of course, you can also connect this to Dropbox. So if your shooters are uploading files, you can immediately pull from Dropbox and sync them into Auto HDR. Now, we don't do that because I like to review my files first, but if that's something you wanted to do, you totally could. You're gonna wanna set up an account. When you set up an account, it's gonna give you up to 10 free images that you can edit with no risk whatsoever. From there, it's gonna show you how many photos you have left. Now, those are your credits. Your credits will equal your photos, essentially. Just keep in mind that one credit will essentially equal a photo as well. You're gonna click on upload. That's gonna allow you to upload your images. Once your images get uploaded, it'll go over to the listing page, and I'm just gonna click on the listing page here. So I have a couple of listings already here loaded in the system, but essentially it will go through and edit these images down. There's different steps that it takes as it goes through the editing process. In average, I've found that it's taking roughly about 35 to 40 minutes to complete all of my edits that I've been uploading. Now, mind you, I have a lot of sub 3,000 square foot homes, and on average, we're trying to deliver up to 35 images per client. So that's about 30-ish to 35 minutes. I feel like it's about a minute per image that you upload typically. Now, I also photograph with JPEGs. I know you're probably thinking, why are you photographing JPEGs? Well, I found the best result from Auto HDR to be from a JPEG. And all of these images that we're looking at right here are JPEG images. These were shot at 5 brackets, 1.5 stops apart. That's given me the best results. I've experimented with 3 stops, but I found at 5 stops, 1.5 times apart, 1.5 exposures apart, has given me the best results. And here's something even crazier about this. All of these images that I have been photographing, 100% handheld. So you have an editing suite directly on Auto HDR's site as well. Let's take a look at another shot that wasn't like so far back. Let's actually go into this shot right here. There was a lot of glare on the floor. Glare is minimized. Color of the floor is natural. Window pulls are great, and what I love about this is if I wanted to brighten this up or make some additional changes, I can go ahead and brighten it up or darken it up, or even add more contrast without ever needing to enter Lightroom. And if there's a real big issue with an image, I can go ahead and flag it for human review, which is pretty sweet. Let's go through, let's look at this house. I shot this one yesterday. I ended up leaving. This house was, the exterior is not super pretty, but the interior of it's perfect. This is another great house. I'm using the classic model on this. And if I wanted to add a little bit more contrast, which on this one, I did add a little bit more contrast, I do a lot of my adjustments directly in Lightroom. I'm familiar with Lightroom, so that's where the vast majority of my adjustments will be made. Super bright because the sun was setting to the front of the house, but it was super bright, and I think ultimately the images look fantastic. Again, shot in JPEG. I'm shooting on the A7R5. This image here, this one seems a little bit dark. So again, if I wanted to make a change to that, I could just brighten it up just easily like that. I can also enhance the vibrance if I want it, and I can make additional changes within Lightroom after the fact. But you'll notice, again, the floor colors pretty consistent across the board. It's another great shot, handheld. This room was really dark and blended down 5 brackets pretty damn seamlessly. This edit took about 33 minutes from the point I uploaded it to the point I got it back. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, this sounds amazing, but what are we talking about as far as pricing goes when it comes to Auto HDR? So if you just sign up, you get 10 photos for free per month, which obviously if you're running a business, that's not gonna work. The standard, which they say is the most popular, you can do 500 photos. There's this little slider here, so you can do 50 photos for as little as $28 a month. So let's say if you're just wanting to test this out, 50 photos, $28 for the month, and you can always bump it back up. And you can see on the slider, it will tell you the cost per image. Obviously, the more images you do, the more you're going to save. So if we slide this all the way up to the $1,000, you're at 50 cents a mark. But if we go over to the enterprise, you can see at 2,000 photos per month, you're at 48 cents per image. And if you slide over to the 5,000, you're at 45 cents per image. I'm on the 5,000 image per month simply because we're typically doing about, I wanna say like 39 to 4,500 images a month on average. And my editor right now, I'm spending about $3,500 to almost $4,000 per month with my editor, which is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So I've been able to just about cut my editing bill in half. Also, with that said, you have Twilight conversions and all that built in. With this, you can make changes. So like you can do your Twilight edits directly on here. So if I wanted to make like this particular image into a Twilight image, we can just click on Twilight and you can choose the style Twilight you want. Like I sort of like this. You can also, whether if you want it more dramatic or subtle or mild, I think mild is the way to go. And it's gonna tell you how many credits it's going to need for that. So at 5 credits at, let's say 50 cents, you're still cheaper than most editors. Of course, you could use Nano Banana or something like that, but if you're somebody that just wants to do it all within one platform, you can go ahead and do it this way. Usually this goes pretty quickly and I'm like downloading, you know, pretty much shortly thereafter. So I'll come back to that image, let you take a look at it, but that is something that's sort of nice that you don't have to, if like a client asks you after the fact, you can go ahead and generate that Twilight after they've decided they wanted to add it. Let's talk about pros and cons though between doing AI editing versus human editors. So the first pro, oh, that Twilight actually finished in that short time. So that's what the Twilight looks like. Honestly, in my opinion, it looks better than what my human editor did for me or did do for me before I used them, simply because there's no shadows. There's a lot of thought process that goes into there. In my opinion, the windows look more natural. This looks more like a natural Twilight than what I have been getting before. And I'll show you an example of what a human editor has done versus what Auto HDR has done. So let's talk about pros and cons between human editors and the AI editor. So the first pro to Auto HDR is obviously the speed. If I send these files in, I get these files back within 30 minutes, which means that no matter what time of day, we'll be able to deliver photos within 1 hour's time to a client. Is this something that you should be offering your clients? No, but it does allow you to get ahead of your work the night before. So when people say, well, why am I gonna do all that? I could just send it out to my editor if the price is relatively the same. What this does not account for, price does not equate time and the buyback that you get when you have the mornings available, because up until now, send the files to the editor. By morning, let's say 7 to 8 a.m., that's when those files are there. So that means from 8 a.m. to 10 in the morning, I'm processing images, uploading, trying to make deadlines for my customer. Now, if the editor had a problem, power outage, you have no way of knowing till the next morning you wake up. That is not a fun thing to wake up to. Now, a pro to overseas editors is the fact that you can basically just tell them what you want to achieve out of those images, and they are going to do that right at the upload process. So that is a pro. A con to AI editing is that while AI editing is great, sometimes you may find mixed results in a same house. And that's something where you would have to flag those images for them to review and make those changes. Sometimes there could be subtle inconsistencies with shadows or certain harsh lighting. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen, as opposed to where you have your human editor that may pick up on that and make that change before you ever see that image. Now, a con to what I have seen with human editors is the fact that they sometimes cannot figure out color. And things that are tan or taupe, I don't know how the hell you pronounce that. But anyways, those tan colors, they seem to always fuck up no matter what. As opposed to where Auto HDR, if I'm shooting JPEG, I have not had those issues with color consistency thus far as the tan colors or struggle colors that I call them for my editors. Another pro to the AI editing is the fact that you can control your expenses right out of the gate, and you can choose how much you want to pay. Unlike an editor where you're running up a bill, and if you're not paying attention, you really don't know what you're spending. Now, a plus side to an overseas editor is most of the time they're going to let you be billed at the end of the month, which could be a benefit to some businesses. You get all your capital throughout the month and then you pay your bill, as opposed to Auto HDR where they're going to bill you out front. I mean, this is sort of similar to a business that pays their employees weekly and then transitions them to every 2 weeks. It's going to take a little bit, but once you get past that little hurdle, it's all the same. You're basically just trading dollars at that point. Another con with the AI editing is sometimes it does struggle when it comes to photographers in mirrors. So you have to train your staff and even yourself to shoot just a little bit different to make removal of you from the mirrors a little bit easier. Now with Photoshop and all the AI features we have to our disposal, this is getting better. And with new iterations of Auto HDR, this should be improved, but it is something you'll want to think about. When you upload and send to a human editor, they're going to remove them from the mirrors for the most part, and it'll be just like they were never there to begin with. So those are just some of the pros and cons between human editors and AI editors. Overall, I like Auto HDR. I feel like it's been helpful. I've gotten great consistent results. When I first started with this, I was photographing RAW and my processing times were taking over an hour. Shooting with the Sony a7R5, that's a big file. And what has to happen with Auto HDR is it has to convert this to a JPEG to then begin the edits. So by shooting JPEG, I'm just taking out that conversion process. So it's one less step the software has to do to be able to start editing my photos. Now, of course, depending on your camera manufacturer will depend on if that's going to vary or not. But at least with Sony, I would recommend shooting JPEG. You got a lot of dynamic range and a ton of latitude to work with. And again, I am shooting handheld and I haven't had really any issues. Any distortion problems I've had, they've been pretty minor, like very, very minor, and we're early on in the testing process with Auto HDR. But again, not enough to where I couldn't run a lens compensation on my file after the fact. Let's face it, when you send things out to an editor, there's always going to be some sort of tweaking or processing that you have to do. But at least with this, I'm doing this all the night before, so my mornings are freed up. I can go back to the gym. I can get rid of my bitch tits. Life's good. So this is a way to buy back time. And again, I'm not saying this will always replace a human editor. There may be some properties that are going to say, hey, I want to send this to a human editor, and that's perfectly okay. I'm not saying that Auto HDR will essentially replace them, but it is another option. It is another tool in the ever-growing arsenal that we will have as media agencies to make our jobs much more efficient. And I'll also include some photos in a link if you want to download them and analyze them for yourself. I'm not shooting all these crazy $1 million properties. A lot of the properties that we photograph are your run-of-the-mill average suburban home. So with that being said, Don't expect like floor to ceiling windows. These are the worst of the worst scenarios. And that's why I'm going to put some of these in the download link for you so you can see what it will do on a not perfect situation home. I'll also include some links of walls that I feel are just super bold in color that it did an accurate job of editing. All right. That's gonna do it for this video. If you're interested in checking out Auto HDR, there will be a link in the description below. Feel free to use my code and support the channel. As always, I will see you in the next one. Stay original. Hello, this is Ken. Hello?
Do you have any chickens for sale?
No, I don't have any chickens.
The ad said you did.
Hey, Nathan, is that you? Son of a bitch!